Hello. I just realized I hadn't had any dinner, and I'm munching on this cookie. Mm. Luckily, I have some snacks here, so I will survive tonight. Oh, that's not the right channel. There we go. Welcome to the Fluff, and welcome to some SCP reading. I'm sorry again about the quiet start. As I was saying, because I didn't really eat much today, but I have fruits and vegetables and snacks here, so I'm probably gonna eat that after the stream. Also, in the fridge is a bottle of Chi Fuel for me ready. Just gonna take it out in like an hour. That way it's definitely cooled. It's Wampa fruit flavored, so I'm looking forward to that. I usually have the sour lemon blueberry, I believe, or sour. Well, it's just called a sour rock shock flavor, which I'm don't really know. Just need to do this real quick so I can get my drops. There we go. But yeah, without further ado, I would actually hold on. I need to send my daughter this, not biological. We're just playing, but I just call her my daughter now because it's fun. It's funny jokes. She often quotes me the father, the Game Grumps father stuff, where she's like why have you brought an axe, father? And I'd be like, what? I didn't bring an axe. I brought a pickaxe. There's a difference. Okay, but now, without further awaiting, let's just all start the reading shower. The Never Want Lamp. The Never Want Lamp? What? Okay, that's an interesting name. Euclid. SCP-810 is to be kept in a transparent container and should be kept on this video. So, I had to ask Liam. Liam has caught corona, but I want to ask him if he wants to be part of this. Want to be part of of my stream, my dying lover. Is to be kept in a transparent container and should be kept under visual surveillance at all times. During experimentation, it is only to be handled by Class D personnel or while wearing gloves. After an experiment is concluded, any Class D personnel who may own the SCP are to be terminated. Description: How's my voice compared to like the background? Is my voice loud enough? Is it too quiet? Because every time I re-listen to my voice in the SCP videos, I always realize like, man, I sound awfully quiet. And that's because of this mic. This mic doesn't have a way to like increase its sensitivity. It's already at max, so like it's very useful mic because like of the setup at home in Switzerland, because you can attach it to a crane and it's just like. But other than that, it's very quiet. Like I wish I could like change the volume on this, or like the sensitivity on this thing. Description: Object appears to be standard oil lamp dating back between 1 and 2,000 years. No biological material has been observed on the SCP, and the circumstances of its recovery make exact dating impractical. When touched by a human, an inscription appears in Aramaic. It reads roughly, "Ask what you will, and you shall never want for it." If the SCP is firmly grasped by a human for at least 30 seconds, the inscription will change to the holder's native language. This change is physical and has been recorded. If the holder of the object expresses any of the desires verbally, the SCP will vibrate briefly. The holder must, on some level, genuinely want what they wish for. Okay, so they need you. Okay, I was about to say like this like fix a lot of like drug problems and alcoholisms. Like if you're like, man, I really want some beer right now. And he's like, no, you don't. He's like, oh yeah. Looks like I just want water. Can you like really wish to be healthy that way? but it looks like you have to want. I mean, at the end, you can still use it to fix alcoholics, because they, if there's truth, if they don't lie to themselves and they actually truly want alcohol, and this thing is like, no, you don't, then yeah, it will change that. All you gotta do is, I mean, this is awful, but you gotta push them to like the extent that they crave it more and more, and then just let them hold this lamp, and then, yeah, the holder will, from then on, have no desire for what they wished for. This would appear to include overriding basic instinctual needs, the experiment log SCP-810-blank. Once a person has been granted a wish by the SCP, it has no effect on them for at least 4 years. Longest recorded time between a previously affected person being affected and touching the SCP again. If a person touches SCP-810 and does not express a desire while touching it, the SCP will attune to that person. Oh, that's a D&D quote. That's not quote. Mechanism. Attuning. The SCP will, when unobserved, disappear and reappear in the possession of whoever it has attuned to, hereafter referred to as the owner. Yeah. That's kind of the similar vibes as tuning in D&D. When you tune to an item, you basically create a magical bond to it. Although it will always appear amongst personal possession of the owner, the SCP will never appear under direct observation. If all possessions of the owner are being monitored, the SCP will disappear and not reappear until either the owner dies or some personal possession of the owner are unobserved. In the former case, the SCP will materialize in whatever unmonitored location is closest to its original vanishing point. Each time the owner observes the SCP, they will momentarily stiffen. Observation shows that the owner will, over time, become more and more accustomed to the SCP regardless of whether or not they have seen it, and eventually will begin carrying it with them, usually after 4 to 5 months of owning the item. Once they begin carrying the item, the owner will casually forget its presence and express a desire while holding it. At this point, they cease owning the SCP and will usually forget about it completely. If SCP-810 is attuned to multiple people, then whoever is currently closest to the SCP is considered the owner. And then we have addendum. Oh, by the way, in one of the previous readings, the one for Combat Boots, the writer of Combat Boots actually talked to me in the YouTube channel, in my YouTube channel, and they, I don't know the gender, they explained that why they wrote Combat Boots and how it came to that moment and all that stuff. They also explained to me that addendums are actually written by other people, not by the writer themselves, or at least with them that was the case. And that explains that also a lot, like why certain addendums include other SCPs and how like it can be so. Like if I was a writer of an SCP and then I written an addendum, I wouldn't be sure if I could write the other SCP written by somebody else in a good way, or in a way that makes sense. You know, like there's a risk that you, if you include the SCP of somebody else, that you might write something that doesn't make sense or that it doesn't agree with the original writer. But actually, sometimes it's the other writer that adds the addendums, and that way there's no misunderstandings between the SCPs, which is very, very interesting to learn that. So addendum 1, this SCP was recovered in a small Indian village. Of course, the addendums will still have to go through the original writer and be like, is this okay if I write this down? And like, yeah, that makes sense. So it's like a co-writer situation where like they just work together on this addendum thing. This SCP was recovered in a small Indian village after reports of the village being terrorized by a haunted lamp. During its retrieval, Agent Blank was affected by the SCP, having expressed a desire for sleep while holding it. Agent Blank died 2 weeks later due to sleep deprivation. Shit. Yeah, okay, so even that counts if you just want to sleep real bad. Further, Agent Blank became the owner of the item shortly thereafter, leading to the confusion for approximately a month before the unexpected death of Agent Blank in Incident Blank permitted further testing. Addendum 2. Interviews with Class D personnel involved experiments with SCP-810 have shown that the person involved will frequently be surprised by the change in their own psyche. Standard psychiatric techniques have proven ineffective at reversing the effects of SCP-810, and administration of Class A amnestics have not readjusted subjects' psyches, although subjects have expressed confusion at the adjustment. Okay. I like this a lot. I like that they took it's a very simple SCP because they took the idea of the lamp that grants wishes and basically was like, what if here's your wish, but instead of giving you the wish, it makes you that you don't want to have it to such an extent where it could ruin your body. Like if you wish for sleep, for example, you just decide to stay awake. If you wish for food, if you're hungry, you might not eat anymore and die out of starvation and so on and so forth. Like, it's such a simple concept of just taking something that we already know and just flip it. Those are like always very interesting SCPs because like you think about them, you're like, yeah, why didn't I think of this? Because it's such an easy thing to think about. You just take the idea of like, oh, like, I don't know. Toilets. No, I'm not going that. I'm not going that route. I'm not going that. No. I already luckily my brain thought of the whole thing in its head, and then my mouth was like, that no. Okay, think of something else. Blankets. You know how blankets usually keep you warm? What if this blanket that just freezes you? Something like that. You know, like that's basically what it does. I think it's very simple concepts, but it's effective. It's effective to take something that we just know and just be like, Una reverse. Swamp Woman. Ooh, this is okay. I saw red. Did I just imagine it? I must have been matched. This is a very high rated one. Okay, Euclid. SCP-811 should be kept in a climate-controlled cylindrical glass enclosure between 10 and 20 inclusive meters in diameter, filled to a depth of no less than 2.5 meters on average with wetland soil and stagnant fresh water. It is to be furnished with a variety of aquatic plants from its native swamp in blank as the remaining vegetation there has exhibited the adaptation to regrow quickly from injuries endured during contact with SCP-811 as long as the roots are undamaged. Logs of manageable size and additional humus-rich soil may be provided for good behavior. Water depth is not to exceed half a meter at its lowest point. Height of the enclosure must be no less than 5 meters above the highest soil point. Temperature is to be kept at 25 degrees Celsius and humidity should be kept above 70%. There is to be a decontamination airlock chamber between the door into the enclosure and the door into the rest of the facility. Air that is ventilated into the enclosure should not be recirculated back into the rest of the facility under any circumstances. The methane resulting from SCP-811's normal interaction with its environment is not anomalous and may be bottled for use as fuel. No heated elements or open flames are permitted inside the enclosure. The enclosure must be tested daily for pH and microbe levels in both the soil and water as well as for changes in chemical composition. Enclosure should be cleaned bi-weekly, preferably by D-class personnel. All discarded waste should be put in quarantine for analysis before disposal by standard biohazard protocols. This is a very long containment procedure. Subject is to be given at least 5 kilograms of live food 24 hours after its completion of its previous meal. Subject is not averse to preying on humans, and it is recommended that personnel not enter the enclosure if SCP-811 has not fed in over 16 hours. What if this is just Shrek? What if this is just Shrek, but like gone horribly wrong? This is like the Shrek that people thought he was in the first movie when they saw him and like, oh my god, this is an ogre. And he's like, he's gonna eat us, but he never did. But this is the Shrek that the people in the movie thought he was. No invasive medical procedure may be performed on SCP-811 outside of an emergency situation in which such a procedure is required to save the subject's life. Minimally invasive procedures require review and unanimous approval by SCP-811's assigned medical team and the current project head. See document 811B for a list of substances that may be administered as medication for SCP-811. All requests made by the subject are to be reviewed by both an overseeing animal enrichment specialist and at least one level 3 personnel before approval. And the review should not take more than 48 hours unless exceptional circumstances dictate otherwise. While SCP-811 is not generally aggressive unless it feels hungry or threatened, all handling personnel are to be cautioned that it is still an opportunistic ambush predator and safety precautions must still be taken to avoid possible injury or infection. All personnel entering the enclosure must wear full-body non-organic biohazard suits and breath masks and must be in groups of at least 2. No personnel are to enter the enclosure if they have open wounds or sores anywhere on their body. Those suffering from asthma or other respiratory affecting conditions are prohibited from entering the enclosure without a signed note from a physician with a level 4 security clearance. As far as research indicates, SCP-811 cannot cause serious injury to anyone properly wearing their biohazard suit. Anyone who removes any part of the biohazard suit while still in the enclosure for any reason at all will be subject to disciplinary action up to and including reassignment to a project that will not be adversely affected by the status as an amputee. Description: SCP-811 is shaped similarly to a human. Okay. Before we actually go on, this was a lot. There's a lot of steps to make sure this thing stays in the enclosure. But I love how like the contained procedure is much longer than the description itself. I mean, sometimes it's like, of course, the description just is like, it's a piece of rock that floats, and if you touch it, you become rock. You know, sometimes it's just that. But yeah, that was a lot. SCP-811 is shaped similarly to a human femur with disproportionately long and thin limbs and a slightly bloated abdominal region. It is 171 centimeters tall and weighs just under 47 kilograms due to its strange physiology. See Addendum 2 for details. Its skin has slight abrasive properties and is a mottled green color that serves to camouflage it among the reeds in its natural habitat. Its sweat has been observed to act as a mild skin irritant. It has extremely oily black hair that has proven to be resistant to cleaning with conventional shampoos. See Addendum 1. It shows partial comprehension of human language, consistent with case studies of feral children that has been abandoned at a few years old instead of as infants. This reminds me of Dead by Daylight. Is it the Hag? Yeah, the Hag. It reminds me of her. Because she's also supposed to be like a swamp woman-like creature. But I highly doubt that's the same image that they're trying to go through. The palmoplantar surfaces of SCP-811's skin constantly secretes a clear green-tinted mucus with minor adhesive properties. This mucus does not appear to have any effect on SCP-811's own tissue, but any other organic matter that it comes into contact will begin to rapidly decompose through processes not fully understood, reducing the matter into a slightly viscous black liquid. And here we have a footnote saying, prognosis and procedure for personnel who have come into contact with SCP-811's digestive mucus is the same as for naturally occurring necrosis and gangrene once the mucus has been washed off. That's already like a difference with the Hag. The Hag is, while she is a swamp lady, she's more about like, she doesn't have any like adhesive mucus or like a skin that you shouldn't touch. She's just dangerous because she has claw-like hands and she just like goes like SCP-811 can then absorb said liquid through its skin and directly into its circulatory systems. Tests have shown that SCP-811's entire circulatory system is filled with liquefied decaying matter. Biopsies taken from SCP-811 have shown the presence of anaerobic bacteria in all examined cells, which, due to the apparent lack of anything resembling functional red blood cells in the subject, are currently presumed to be what SCP-811 uses to metabolize the chemicals in its circulatory system. SCP-811 does not defecate or otherwise produce feces in the traditional sense, and entirely lacks a small or large intestine. Instead, cellular waste and substance SCP-811 is unable to metabolize, collect in what is, anatomically speaking, its stomach. Within the stomach, enzymes and bacterial flora cause it to conceal into a grainy, tar-like substance that SCP-811 periodically voids by voluntary projectile regurgitation. Okay, oh, damn. So straight up like black tar, a mechanism which it uses to hunt. Excuse me, what? Like, I know, for example, owls don't poop. They regurgitate the food in this like ball of like just ball of everything. So I assume it's like in a similar sense here, but of course it's fucking projectile. She's like it preferentially aims at the face or at any perceived open wounds on its target, then waits for the target to die of either immediate asphyxiation or by blockage of the mouth and nose. Only a few days of multisystemic failure resulting from aggressive bacterial infection. Ugh. So it's so thick that like it literally blocks your mouth and nose really well. It must be like it probably like it's hard to scrape off as well, because I cannot imagine somebody just getting vomited on and not trying to like just like. It must be like a very thick, just like, and even if you try to like remove it, it just doesn't work. SCP-811's teeth did not seem to have any abnormal resistance to decay resulting from chronic exposure to the compounds and microflora in its waste. See Addendum 1. Prognosis for personnel who have had contact with SCP-811's waste through a mucous membrane or open wound is good if broad-spectrum antibiotic therapy is begun in the first 3 hours, but then rapidly declines. Personnel who are D-class or have gone 12 hours without getting treatment may request termination. And then 1. To date, SCP-811 has requested regular delivery of bovine prey, denied. That crocodilians be removed from its prey animal rotation, approved. The wild be stocked with variety of fish species from its native, blank, denied. 1 hairbrush made of 100% synthetic materials, approved. For 1 D-class personnel to every other day come in with a basin and shower head to wash and condition its hair, approved. It has been noted that standard strength hair shampoos do not adequately clean away the excessive oil in SCP-811's hair, and use of a formula with a higher proportion of strongest surfactants has been authorized. So yeah, I mean, they did say it will hunt humans, but I mean it's being fed. So at the end, like there's no reason for it to hunt humans, but maybe it does occasionally out of like sport or just actual hunger. But as long as you keep it fed, as long as you keep her fed, then she's gonna be like, just like this mucus, like, hey, how you doing? To be addressed by a 2-syllable name that has been transliterated as SCP-811 being illiterate and does not capable of choosing a spelling for itself, approved. Due to SCP-811's difficulty with language, it has been deemed acceptable to use its chosen name when directly speaking to it for the purpose of streamlining meaningful communication. Relief from its chronic tooth pain, approved. Request was initially denied until a safe and effective method of administering general anesthesia to SCP-811 was discovered and a dental surgery plan devised. 247 FDI 2-digit notation removed the test method and adjust for unpredicted special aftercare requirements. Reminder of SCP-811's teeth removed and overdenture implants installed in the second operation. SCP-811 supplied with complete dentures to be repaired as needed. 1 turtle in a hazmat suit for non-dietary purposes, denied. Turtles accordingly removed from prey animal rotation. Possibility of placing a small turtle habitat in the observation area outside SCP-811's enclosure for enrichment under consideration. It wants a pet turtle. Addendum 2. Due to the fact that SCP-811 has lungs and teeth, despite having no apparent use for either, it was brought to Bioresearch Area 12 Radiology Lab for X-rays to examine its internal structure. Results were inconclusive. Subsequent MRI testing has revealed that SCP-811 has a number of unusual glands and organs attached to its lymphatic system, which may assist in regulation of the viscosity and microbial flora of the material in its circulatory system. One such organ in the abdominal region appears to contain lighter than air gas. The possibility that SCP-811 was once redacted is being explored. Due to the impossibility of maintaining a sterile operating environment, limited understanding of SCP-811's biology, and difficulty in calculating the subject's mass, the risk of major complication or subject death has been deemed too high to authorize exploratory surgery. Interview log 16. Interviewers: Dr. Trebuchet, Junior Lab Assistant Wachtel, Dr. Trebuchet and Junior Lab Assistant Wachtel, and the SCP-811's containment unit. Dr. Trebuchet is getting a clipboard with a document on it and a shoebox. A. What? I thought like because she's like all slimy, I should give her like the Zoidberg like voice, but maybe not. Wait. No. No. There's no way to do it. Do a good slime voice, except. Questions. Points to shoebox. Food. I don't know how to. Maybe I should do like a. Food. Nah. Dr. Bishop nods, opens the shoebox, a frog jumps out. SCP-811 brings her foot down the frog as it lands and begins to digest it. Grins. Doctor wants questions? That sounds. Doctor wants questions? Doctor. Yeah, I'm gonna go with that. Doctor wants questions? I'm gonna make it sound like that. Yes, hands the clipboard to Wachtel, points to something on it. Reading from the clipboard. What is the earliest thing you can remember? Early thing? Early things. Things before. Seems understand. Before box? Before box. Appears thoughtful. Most before? Yes. With sweeping demonstrative arm and hand movements. Big man. Tall. Eyes small. Very small. That man, uses hand to indicate a height of approximately 1 meter off the ground, points to her own arm, was like man. What was like him? Pinches some of her skin between the two fingers. This. Not like I. Like man. Like people. Your skin. Skin. Prods arm thoughtfully, then smiles. Skin. Wait, you mean you had skin like ours? It appears so. I.e., what after? Pointing to inside of one elbow. Pain stick. Here. Cold. Needle. Kerida clears throat. They call needles. Needles. Here. Cold. And then. Pain. Pantomiming something coming out of the mouth. Rat. Was very hungry. Scared. 8 man. Skin like this. Oh god. At this point, Wachtel begins to vomit in the hazmat suit. SCP-811, misinterpreting this as a sign of hostility, retreats into one of the pools of water in its enclosure and does not resurface until both Wachtel and Dr. Trevor have left. Notes, while I understand the appeal of training the new blood on something relatively harmless and as green as they are, could you please throw them at some other humanoid for a while? I'm trying to actually get things done here, Dr. Trebuchet. Yeah, that was kind of dumb to throw somebody who is not accustomed to all this into a situation where they just openly admitted, yeah, I eat people. And also, like, especially because she's like constantly like, slimy and just like oozes things out. Yeah, that was not the most wisest choice, but oh well. A big box of river. No, not a Euclid one. And let's see, we have ourselves a callback to another SCP, so I'm just gonna get that shit ready real quick. 109, what was the 109? The infinite canteen, if I recall correctly. Yeah, it's a water canteen with an infinite amount of water. The water is very effective. or being used for anything. Yeah, I remember that. Okay. But this is an endless box of river. Wait, this is a big box of river, excuse me, not endless. Just big. Just big. Euclid being inanimate and more or less inert, SB812 can theoretically be stored almost anywhere. However, to prevent accidental flooding, the subject should be kept outdoors. Only one of the object's doors should be open at a time. Carelessness, particularly in transit, can and will result in drowning. If both doors are open at once, the rate of flow will render the act of closing the double doors impossible. Close the side door and the flow will stop. SB812 is currently housed at Site 19, outside next to the general equipment sheds. It is to be kept securely locked, and tampering by unauthorized personnel is grounds for demotion and or disciplinary action. Description: SB812 is a nondescript cargo container of corrugated steel measuring 12 meters times 2.5 meters times 2.5 meters. There's a sliding door measuring 2 times 2 meters set in one of the long sides, and a set of double doors is built into one of the square ends. The object is painted dull red and partially covered in with spray painted graffiti. Official markings include the number 247 and the word Unterkorb, which identifies to no commercial entity. The object weighs approximately 4,000 kilograms, which is 4 tons, when empty, and can hold up to 26,500 kilograms. 26.5 tons! SB812 has a noticeable tendency to be misplaced or forgotten by whomever is charged with it. Photographs and first-hand accounts suggest it has been in motion almost constantly since original manufacture, but despite this, the object has appeared in only 2 cargo manifests in the last 16 years, and none before that. Its precise age and origin are therefore impossible to determine. When the side door is opened, the interior of SB812 is completely filled with running water, which flows rapidly in the direction of the double doors. Parallel to the long sides, the water is somehow contained within the object and does not pass through the side door, which is otherwise entirely permeable. Solid matter passes through easily and can be used to draw out water. This appears to be a 2-level binary switch dimensional anomaly. In example, when the side door is open, SB812 remotely accesses a 12-meter section of an otherwise normal body of running water. When the side door is closed, the object behaves more or less as a normal cargo container. In the event that both sets of doors are open at once, all water passing through SB812 will flow out the double doors. This will quickly fill any space in which the object is stored, at which point pressure will be neutralized and normal flow will resume, passing through the object and vanishing where the double doors will be ordinarily. Any water outside the object will become stagnant. The door continues to act as an impermeable membrane, and water will not pass through it under any circumstances save when it's forcibly drawn out. Closing the side door will halt the flow of water. The current is fairly consistent, hovering around 1,500 liters per minute. Ooh, that is a lot. That's a lot of aqua. And has a very low turbidity despite the object's corrugated interior. Tests have shown that the water is not saline, but it's quite rich in dissolved minerals, around 240 milligrams per liter, minus 40%. I guess that's calcium, but that stuff I don't understand. So that this composition strongly suggests that it's part of a subterranean river system. No ambient light is evident within the stream, and GPS traces released into the stream simply vanish from detection. Corroborating this hypothesis, preparation is currently underway for an unmanned expedition to explore the river system. The current is far too swift to dive safely. No connection is evident between SB812 and SB109, which is the never-ending canteen. But also this, it's very interesting. They have 3 SCPs. Well, they probably have more, but there are 3 SCPs now that I recall that has an endless stream of water. This one, the orb of water, which I'm pretty sure it was one of the ones that we read just in the last 700s, right? Yeah, the water orb, yeah, 791. So the fact that they have multiple, like, sort of endless water is just, I mean, in their world, the world ending up underwater is much more likely than with ours. I say that. General Missive -A. Researchers and general staff should keep in mind that all flood cleanup will be entirely manual. SCP-402 is far too valuable to use for a simple labor reduction to stop asking for it, which I believe. Oh man, that's the obsidian absorber. Yes, it's an option made out of mostly obsidian that turns all water into contact it, making the water completely unperceivable. The water still exists. Other objects still interact with the water, as shown by fluid dissolving. Affected water can affect other water similarly. The human body does not detect it. Yep. Do us all a big favor and just be more careful in the future. Dr. Swanson, Supervisor 3-221, Side 19. Okay. A big box of river. Next one is glass shard. Keter. It's a keter. And there's an SCP that we haven't had the chance to read yet. So, okay. SCP-813 is housed at Site 117 and contained in a 2-meter cubic steel crate filled with an industrial foam. SCP-813 must be encased within this foam at all times and must not come into direct contact with the interior walls of the container. The crate is suspended by industrial-grade elastic supports and is not permitted within 3 meters of any surface. Hosts of -1 are to be held in separate standard humanoid containment cells. Each instance of -1 should be removed from its host as quickly as reasonable. For information on surgical procedures necessary to SCP-1 removal, see Document 1. After removal, each instance will be contained in separate airtight steel containers, 1 cm times 0.5 cm times 0. I guess that's supposed to be another times 0.5 centimeters. In the event that an -1 host expires, or an instance of -1 itself is unaccounted for, the immediate area must enter lockdown and search will be organized for the instance in question. All personnel handling -1 instances are hosts. All hosts are to wear reinforced glass face shields. Any containment personnel experiencing optical distress or anomalies must be evaluated immediately. SCP-813 is not to be located within 10 kilometers of SCP-882 or any artifacts with a connection to the Church of the Broken God. Oh, there's another one with the Church of the Broken God in this. Very soon. Very soon, my pretties. Okay, description. SCP-813 is a spherical glass sculpture. Evidence suggests that the sculpture was originally 48 centimeters in diameter. However, the artifact is currently missing approximately 17% of its initial mass. Close inspection of SCP-813 has revealed a microscopic system of seemingly metallic clockwork machinery. This machinery is continuously active, though the means by which it accumulates or generates power is unclear. The properties of the artifacts see below have prevented more extensive inspection of the machinery, and spectroscopic analysis have proven inconclusive. The glass comprising SCP-813 is exceptionally fragile and will shatter under pressure far below what would be expected. SCP-813 always fractures into fragments approximately 7 mm times 2 mm in size. These pieces cannot be broken down further by any means, rendering them precisely indestructible. Upon shattering, all fragments now designated -1 produced will seek out the nearest human target. Human seeking missile glass shards. It has been determined that -1 will only target living human beings with one or more functional functional eyes. It is undetermined how they locate said targets. They're doing fucking Sam Raimi Spider-Man 2. Remember that when Doc Ock's wife gets like a glass shot like flying towards her eye and she's like, ah! That's what they're doing. That's what this glass is doing. It's like, man, I really love Spider-Man 2 by Sam Raimi. I'm so inspired. I'm gonna kill people the same way. -1 are capable of propelling themselves through an unknown means, allowing them to leap at the velocities up to 131. Is that supposed to be kilometers per hour? Okay, yeah. That is, if that's the speed, that's very fast. I want to see. I want to make sure. I want to make sure that if that's correct. It is kilometers per hour. That is crazy. That's crazy fast. Anything at that speed going through your eye would shatter your entire head. Even if it's like tiny, yeah, but still, it's like I feel like that speed it will just come out of my skull again. Upon reaching its target, the Ashwan will invade the subject's eye and embed itself in the optic nerve. Okay, so it's like it's not trying to like shatter my eye. It's like trying to like slowly like. Regardless of the fragment's impact velocity, there will be no substantial damage to the eye or the rest of the body. Yeah, the subject will suffer sharp pain and temporary blindness, which will dissipate within a few seconds. Following this, the Ashwan will extend several microscopic wires of an unidentified substance into the subject's brain. I never had the idea of glass being a parasite. That is dope. These effects produce no neurological or cognitive damage and are universally unnoticed by the subject. The host of -1 will begin to display marked changes in behavior roughly 2 weeks after exposure. At this time, the subject will frequently cease the normal activity and stare motionlessly for several hours. These events cause the subject's pupils to dilate, and those in close proximity report subject's tinnitus, report subjective tinnitus, described as an electric hum. During this period, the subject is totally unresponsive toward attempts to rouse them, and they will also deny that such periods ever take place. Over the next 3 to 4 months, these periods increase in length until they entirely comprise the subject's daily routine, and they will only deviate from this behavior for necessary nutrition and rest. -1 will remain in the optic nerve until the subject's death. At this point, -1 will withdraw its wires from the central nervous system and inject itself from the optic nerve towards the nearest human target and repeat the process. Forcible removal of the fragment, surgically or otherwise, is fatal to the host, and the fragment will immediately seek out a new host in its usual manner. Oh shit. Yeah, no wonder it's keto. That thing just like, oh, my host's dead? And it's like so small too, like it's very tiny. That thing, you wouldn't see it, and you would be on the middle of the road just walking. Next thing you know, you'd be like, ah, fuck, and you have no idea what's happening. And then 1, item recovery and additional materials. SCP-813 was initially recovered from an armed convoy in Redacted, operated by known members of the Church of the Broken God. Of course. The Church of the Broken God, they always create like the most like keto. They never decide to make it safe SCP. They always have like the most keto things. The other one was also like, oh, if you turn this globe thing, this globe figurine statue, guess what? Everything that we've created vanishes. The crate from which SCP-813 was recovered displayed anomalous properties, causing the artifact to levitate in the center of the container. However, during the ensuing confrontation, the crate was damaged and SCP-813 was dropped from its suspension position. Cushioning inside the crate prevented the artifact from entirely shattering. However, what are believed to be bullet fragments generated by the conflict struck SCP-813 and dislodged several pieces of -1. These promptly invaded a number of mobile task force operatives. -1 instances do not appear to target church members. Well, great. Following the event, SCP-813 was transported to Site Blank for analysis. No member of the church survived the incident. A fragment of paper believed to be handwritten letter was recovered from the convoy. The following is an excerpt of the letter. An eye sees all things except itself. For that it must have another. That which was paired and now separated must be made whole once again. Through its shards the broken eye sees. Through heaven's minds is the broken God seeks. Those guys. Next to Marshall Carter and Dark, these guys always have to go over the board. Pure tones. Here we go. Now Euclid. In 10 minutes, I'm gonna get my chief rule out. Euclid. -1 is to be kept in a sprung, evacuated, and anechoic chamber within the quiet area of a Type 11 acoustic containment facility. -2 is to be stored in a climate-controlled locker outside the facility's quiet area. As its mechanisms are very fragile, -1 is not to be accessed under any circumstances without the authorization of its senior researcher or HMCL. In the event of a site emergency, SB-114 is to be remotely destroyed. Here we have SB-814 prior to containment. As description, -1 is an ornate mahogany enclosure housing an antique wax cylinder type phonograph, circa 1900th century, of unique design. The internal mechanism, which is completely functional, is capable of holding up to 4 music cylinders. Notably, it is capable of the replay of multiple cylinders simultaneously. The manufacturer's mark syncope is etched on several of the phonograph's components. -2 is a set of 4 phonograph cylinders recovered from -2's 4 cylinder slots. These cylinders are of approximately the same age as -1, albeit made of hardened steel rather than wax. Each cylinder has the phrase pure tone engraved on each, and followed by a number indicating the frequency in Hc of a sine wave tone produced by playing the cylinder. Footnote: 55 Hc, 4, and then respectively. The cylinder's audio grooves are engraved with extreme precision. Even under confocal microscopy, the grooves show no apparent deviation from the pattern required to produce a pure tone of precisely the given frequency. And here we have the significant effect of -2. When -2 cylinders are played via -1, the sine wave tone producers are anomalously free of distortion. Even considering the nature of the cylinder grooves, such tones are exact to a degree theoretically impossible given the nature of the phonograph. Recordings of the tones show no deviations from a purely sinusoidal waveform other than those attributable to the recording equipment. When digital recorders are directly connected to -1, the resultant tones are sinusoidal to within the quantization error of the equipment used. This phenomenon has been confirmed from 8-bit 11 kHz up to 32-bit 192 kHz precision. The cylinders can be played individually or in groups, the latter producing various dyad, triad, or tetrad octave harmonies. Human exposed to the tones produced from -2, here comes, is played via -1, describes subtle but pervasive feelings of harmony, correctness, and well-being. That's what the pure tone is, right? Yeah, okay. This experience is moderately addictive, and such human experimentation with SB-814 is to be limited. Subjects exposed to playback of -2 via any other cylinder phonographs report no such experiences. -1. Yep. So here's the other one, which was syncope, I believe, right? Yeah. Use of -1 to play any audio source other than -2 results in massive distortions of local spacetimes. Oh shit. These properties were discovered during Recovery Test Series A. During this test, human subjects that had been exposed to the output of the -1/2 combination became insistent on trying new audio cylinders. A subsequent transient effect, initially thought to be monitoring glitch, but now thought to have been caused by vigorous removal of audio cylinders while -1 was still engaged, resulted in the deaths of all personnel within the test chamber. After extensive experimentation, footnote, see experiment series A1 through A467, the following general theory of the object's operation has been proposed. Slot 1 affects X denied as the spatial axis perpendicular to the front and back of -1. Slot 2 affects Y defined as the spatial axis perpendicular to the sides of -1. Slot 3 affects Z, defined as the spatial axis perpendicular to the top and bottom of -1. Slot 4 affects T, defined as time. The playback of any tone or tones are not precise multiple of factor 440 Hertz results in space or time distortion. The extent and severity of these distortions depends on the amplitude of the cylinder grooves, the setting of -1's volume lever, and the degree to which the pitch or pitches in the source are not precisely in tune with an idealized 440 Hz reference. Even reference cylinders of a similar type to -2 results in a noticeable space-time distortion when played. Observers describe a multidirectional pulsating effect and perceived distortion of time similar to that induced by certain hallucinogens. Any other type of cylinder, including conventional music cylinders, induces drastic distortions of localized space-time when played through -1. Only -2 has been found to produce tones close enough to the idealized reference to prevent such effects. It has been theorized that the -1/2 combination known as known effect on human subjects is actually a second-order result of effects of local space-time. Experimentation to discover the full range of -2 effects is ongoing. Addendum: after incident A14 break glass, in which unauthorized recordings were placed in 3 of the 4 slots and the volume setting was set to 6/10 6/10 experimentation with -1 is suspended indefinitely. So it has a nice side. It has a nice side where you can just relax and feel at peace and harmony. And the other side is just pure destruction of space and time, which can kill you. Actually, no. Okay, we reached the halfway point. Actually, 1, 2, 3. Yeah, we reached the halfway point. Next one is Snake Nut Can. Hey, a save. Okay, SB815 requires no extraordinary containment procedure beyond a standard keypad locked storage locker. Contact Doctor. That must. Can you imagine finding an SCP that you can just be like, oh yeah, all you gotta do is just keep it in a locker? That must be such a relief for the Foundation. Be like, oh, thank God this doesn't destroy steel doors or anything like that. Contact Dr. Myers for access permission under no circumstances should any non-Class D personnel open SB815. SB815 should be handled carefully as to prevent accidental activation. SB815 is a novelty snake nut can, a common prank device that consists of a small canister labeled solid mixed nuts. Man, those were the days when those were a thing. While in actuality, it contains 4 cloth-covered springs meant to represent snakes that fly out upon opening. X-ray and multispectral imaging have as yet determined to no measurable unusual qualities of the can or snakes. Man, like I don't think I ever saw those in real life. I just knew cartoons that loved these things. Those like can that's actually just like the spring snake in it. Like SpongeBob had them, and other cartoons in the early 90s demonstrated them. But I don't think I ever saw anybody use them or prank people with them. The one prank that was going around a lot was the bubblegum one, where like it's a fake bubblegum, and when you pull it, it's like gives a little bit of a shock. That was big in my childhood. That thing was everywhere. I was the only one who didn't fall for it because all the people that always used it were people that usually don't have bubblegum on themselves and never gave it to other people. Like, so when the moment somebody came up with like, "Hey, you want some bubblegum?" I was like, "Yeah." Dude, you never have bubblegum. Why would you? And there's also like a certain eagerness with children, right? So that they were like, "Yeah, come on, take it." And you'd be like, "No." Not only that, but also most of the time I was like the introvert kid, so I saw them use that prank on somebody else before they came to me. So I was like, "Okay, yeah, no, you can't catch me off guard." Upon opening, the snakes instantaneously vanish from the can and violently burst forth from the nearest person. See note. Faced with extreme force, high-speed video footage reveals that the snakes appear to emerge from the lower sinuses, typically shadowing the nose, cheekbones, and upper jaw upon exiting. Oh my God. As a result, subjects often avoid major brain damage and remain alive until termination or death from blood loss or shock. After approximately 15 seconds, the can reseals itself and produces another 4 ordinary snakes. The method which the snakes achieve such extraordinary velocity without breaking is unknown. It just breaks your face. Researchers are to be reminded that SB-815 acts on the nearest person, even opened by a robot. I don't want to have to keep cleaning up these accidents, people. Dr. Myers. So even if somebody else, like a non-human, opens it up, it was just with high velocity just come at you and smash into your head and break your face open. Ugh, damn. That's harsh. That hurts. La 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 la. Yeah. Okay. Darwin's erector set. What? Okay, time to get my G Fuel out. Woo! Wampa fruit. Shit tastes good. That tastes good. Yeah. SB-816 is currently contained to provisional site blank of its own volition. A containment breach is not considered likely, and any containment breach would likely end without intervention. As SB-816 requires access to -1 in order to survive, and is not capable of moving -1. -1 must be rewound every 50 years to ensure continued dependence. In the event that SB-816 becomes no longer dependent upon -1, contingency C must be immediately enacted. See document blank. Provisional site blank, site P/blank has been established to contain and research SB-816. Site P/blank is a home in blank Switzerland. And SB-816 is confined to its basement. We're in Swissy! Description: SB-816 is a name given to the collection of small automata residing in the basement of the house at blank blank street blank Switzerland. Journals found in the basement indicate that blank blank, a local teacher, originally created SB-816 in 1890 blank, inspired by the works of Charles Darwin and Charles Babbage. He designed and built automata capable of reproducing and evolving. The mechanics of reproduction are facilitated by a collection of parts common to all species. However, most species modify the base parts to create specialized parts to fit the ecological niche. At the core of each SB-816 is a rudimentary processor which varies little between species. While much less powerful than modern processors, they are still far beyond what should be possible for 1890s level technology. While as far as research has determined, no aspect of SB-816 violates known principles of science, they are still precisely designated to a degree which is not humanly possible. SB-816 receives no new energy from -1, a grandfather clock modifier to provide mechanical energy to SB-816. -1 was designated for longevity. However, upon discovery, -1 had nearly exhausted its energy supply. And as such, the SB-816 research team has rewound -1 to continue providing energy. The research team concluded that keeping SB-816 dependent on a local energy source would aid containment, and that without -1, SB-816 would likely adapt to gain energy in a way that would allow it to expand beyond site P/blank. The consequence of an expansion of SB-816 beyond site P/blank are unknown and could be in best case scenario harmless to in the worst case scenario an RK class restriction scenario where SB-816 would outcompete biological life. Yeah, because just like in Horizon Zero Dawn, if you have robots that can reproduce by itself and fuel itself by biofuel, yeah, there's a high chance that the humans might die because of them or go extinct. Blank distinct species of SB816 have been observed to, though many more likely exist. Based on journal records, all species are descended from a single original design. SB816 reproduction is similar to a biological reproduction with a few key exceptions. Any individual can act as a male or female during intercourse. Intercourse. The designs for both partners are mixed, with infrequent mutation, and the data is transferred to a female, who then begins searching for parts to assemble the new design. Predation occurs in two forms. The primary form is for the purpose of regaining energy. You know what this reminds me of? Robots, the Pixar film. Because remember when the the mom and dad robot were like we gonna have a baby, and and instead of like sex they build the baby. That's what it reminded me of. Like it's like, oh, it's looking for parts. It's like it's building its own child. Man, Robots was a great film. I don't care who you are. That's a fucking great film. That's fun. It's funny. It's well animated. The world is creative. Robbie Williams is in it. How can you not love it? The second is reproductive in nature. In the first form, a specialized device has evolved for most species that interfaces with the slot that plugs into -1 to obtain energy, thereby allowing SB816 to regain energy without directly taking it from -1. The second form occurs after reproduction, wherein the female will search for and kill other automatons in order to procure parts to build its offspring. Now, if it kills other automatons, okay, it might not be the ones that they created. It might just be other machines that are non-sentient, maybe. This is really good. I need to try the other G Fuel another day. The one I have, the icy blue. The basic ecosystem that has evolved is as following. The foundation of the ecosystem are two species of SB816, the assimilators and the collectors. The assimilators are capable, unlike any other species, of creating new parts from the environment. This is the only way that new materials enter the system, and an evolutionary shift in the parts that make up the assimilators can result in a population boom or extinction for other species. The assimilators are large, roughly 10 centimeters in length, and slow, making them the primary target for reproductive predation. The collectors are the species that now completely control access to SCP-816-1, forcing most species to rely on predation for energy. The collectors have evolved variously defenses to ensure control of -1, but they are the prime targets of energy predation, and now effectively the sole way that new energy enters the system. The simulators and collectors are roughly analogous to herbivores in the SB816 food chain. Most species prey upon the simulators and the collectors for energy and parts, each filling an ecological niche. One species uses the various specialized parts left over from the reproductive predation in its design, frequently in ways that they were not intended to be used. Another species has evolved defenses to reproductive predation in that it alters the base parts to such a degree that few species will target it, since it contains so few usable parts. Another species, however, has evolved specifically to prey upon the aforementioned species, evolving devices to reform the base parts into original shapes. Wow. Wow. Well, congratulations to the guy who built it in the 1890s. Congratulations, you created a monster. Well, I mean, so far, doesn't seem like they're doing too much harm, but it will be dangerous if they try to outcompete us. So, yeah. Random metamorphism. Random, you say? Euclid. SCP-817 is held in a solitary confinement cell inside blank. Numerous mechanisms for incapacitating SCP-817 are built into its cell, including sedative loaded darts, pumps to fill the chamber with sleeping gas, pumps to remove oxygen from the chamber, a mechanism to flood the chamber with water or acidic or alkaline solutions, An electric current that can be run through the floor and walls, a mechanism to fill the entire room with quick hardening foam, and a mechanism to introduce approximately 300 black flies to the room. SB-817 has a known phobia of flying insects. Oh, okay, you. That's a way to keep it in control. The remainder of SB-817 containment procedure varies based on its current abilities. The following procedure must be re-evaluated and revised every time SB-817 undergoes a metamorphic shift. SB-817's containment chamber is currently a simple padded confinement cell, apart from the measures mentioned above. Air conditioned to 18 degrees Celsius, SB-817 is fed blank kilograms of cooked meat daily, as in its current form it consumes calories very rapidly. A detachment of at least 5 armed security personnel must be present whenever SB-817 is released from its cell. Restraints must be placed on its wing structure and a specially designed muzzle on its head and neck. SB-817 is a humanoid of indeterminate gender and variable physical features. Although genetic testing suggests it was once blank, a young Asian male. SB-817 periodically undergoes radical metamorphic changes to its physiology. The delay between metamorphic events varies, but is usually about 2 to 3 months. These shifts and the physiological abnormalities produced cause SB-817 enormous pain. However, it seems to suffer no actual damage to its body systems. Additionally, SB-817 seems to be incapable of deliberately injuring itself. SB-817 is mentally unstable, displaying severe psychotic symptoms during psychotic episodes, which make up roughly 30% of its waking hours and are always triggered by its metamorphic shifts. SB-817 is extremely hostile and will attempt to breach containment and attack personnel. Oh man. Can you imagine you transforming to something else and that just leads you to just attack whatever is in your way? Doesn't that sound a bit like the Hulk? I mean, this is different, of course, it's different, but that's a similarity though. I mean, with the Hulk, of course, it happens when Bruce gets angry. With this one, it happens randomly. So, but in both cases, you transform and then attack whatever is in your way. In its current form, SB-817 is 1.5 meters tall, lacks primary or secondary sex organs, and in place of arms has limbs resembling the wings of a bat that fold around its torso and span 3 meters when fully extended. Damn. He's the Batman now. Bones and muscle are composed of unknown polymers, unrelated to any natural occurring skeletal or muscular material, and blank lighter than their baseline human counterparts. Because of this reduction in its mass to force exerted ratio, SB-817 is fully capable of extended unassisted flight using its wings, although doing so requires an enormous energy expenditure. Its extremely high metabolic rate keeps SB-817's body temperature at a constant blank degrees Celsius, and it appears to be suffering the appropriate degree of pain for human heated to such temperature despite a lack of actual harm to its physiology. Additionally, while SB-817's current neck and jaw structure appear humanoid, it has demonstrated the ability to suddenly jerk its neck forward and unfold its jaw, presumably as a feeding mechanism in lieu of arms. That's creepy. Like, you just you know what I mean? Like, addendum. Notable past metamorphic forms of SB-817. Tall and thin with a reflective index of nearly 0. Require no sustenance beyond solar radiation. Efficiency of absorption estimated at blank percentage. Vastly greater than any known biological or artificial method. Had no orifices whatsoever, sensory and excretory, digestive or reproductive. Attempts to create solar panels based on its skin proved fruitless. Female in appearance, exuded redacted from its pores, see attached image, there's no image. Tranquilizers, sleeping gas and oxygen removal proved ineffective. Successfully incapacitated by electric shock. Drainage added to containment chamber to counter the corrosive effects of redacted. Kept sedated and on an IV feed for the duration of this form. Naturally feeding methods seem to involve injecting blank through, later expunged. has fully dissolved, followed by the direct absorption of nutrients through the skin, suffered the same level of pain that constant exposure to redacted would cause in a normal human. Translucent and able to phase effortlessly through objects, tranquilizer failed, sleeping gas failed, successfully incapacitated by oxygen removal, spent most of its time in this form attempting to scream, and 2 days in began attempting to claw its own eyes out. Emitted a very small but measurable amount of gamma radiation, all attempts at study failed. 2.5 meters tall with thick, bulky musculature, breached in containment, killing and consuming blank personnel before Dr. Blank incapacitated by it accidentally by releasing a swarm of flies intended to feed. Redacted. Musculature proved to be a complex and powerful hydraulic system powered by 10 large hearts in its core, pumping an unusual ichor. 3 additional hearts powered a second circulatory system which served to provide the other hearts with oxygen. Any pressure applied to its skin caused significant pain, including contact with the ground. Aye. That must also mean that eating must have hurt. Because, like, lifting them, like, just doing this must hurt, like, pain right here. Analysis by Dr. E. Blank indicates even at the most conservative estimates, SCP-817 has expended less than 10% of the energy it has taken in since containment. Its method of energy storage is presently unknown. Dr. E. Blank hypothesizes data expunge and has recommended that SCP-817's rations be cut significantly below the current estimated starvation level. Recommendation still pending review. This poor SCP, dude. Like it's clear. Like, I would definitely say this guy is more or less suffering its condition. You know, it doesn't want to transform. It just wants to be, like, not in pain, or like stay in transformation that doesn't cause any significant difficulties. But it just never works out for him or it. But yeah. Okay. An abandoned project, and I can see there's a script. How long is the script? Not long. Good. I'm thinking of ordering. I hope they still allow orders during this time. Neutralize previously keto. Okay. Here we go. SCP-818 was confined in a circular area of no less than 4 meters across with no object directly obscuring the walls. SCP-818 containment area contained 1 sleeping mattress, 1 table, and 1 light fixture, filled with high wattage fluorescent light bulbs. SCP-818's cell was not under any circumstances rearranged, nor was the light turned off. Personnel were not permitted in SCP-818's holding cell, nor any area within an additional 10 meters around the cell's perimeter. Perimeter? Why does it sound wrong? Perimeter? I don't know, I'm saying it wrong in my head, for sure. During its active times, from exactly 8:43 a.m. to 9:21 p.m. Personnel exposed to SCP-818 areas of effect during its active time were reclassified to Class D and enrolled in SCP-818's test group. The following document attributed to the original project head, Dr. Blank, 19 blank to 99 blank, was considered the major directive of the project for 8 years and was given to each new member of the research staff. It is retained here for archival purposes. It should be noted that SCP-818 is a creature of precise habits. It will follow a specific script, see attached file, SCP-818 script, without fail each day. To the letter, built into this model are times of deviation during with which SCP-818 must be closely monitored. It should go without saying that fail to note any and all additional deviations could be disastrous. So here let's read the script real quick. -A script. Times below are accurate within 1 minute of SCP-818's schedule. More detailed scripts, including number of footsteps taken, any times recorded times recorded to within 1/10 of a second, are available upon request to Dr. Blank. This script was slowly imposed on SCP-818 over a course of 7 weeks by Agent Blank and Dr. Blank. Any and all deviations must be noted to help in maintaining the efficiency, the efficacy of this containment procedure. So, A43, SB818 awakens, walking northward from its bed to the wall. SB818 will then walk to the circumference of its wall 8 times, then continue for an additional walk until reaching the exact southern point of the room. 911. SB818 will face the southern wall. 951. SB818 will turn abruptly and walk to the middle of the room. It will then stare at the ceiling light. SB818 must not be disturbed during this period under any circumstances. See Incident Report 3Z. 1038. SB818 will return to its bed and stare at the northwest curve of the wall. Floating color-based images can be observed at this point. 1141, SB818 will get up and walk to the table, kneeling at it. For the duration, SB818 can be approached. SB818 should not be spoken to during this time. 1258, SB818 will stand and proceed to the easternmost wall. It will then follow the circumference of the wall 16 times. 143. SB818 will suddenly turn sharp, return to the table quickly, sitting and kneeling again. 3. SB818 will begin to cry soundlessly. SB818 must not be disturbed during this period under any circumstances. 343. SB818 will return to its bed and lay down, opening and closing its eyes. 415. SB818 will leave its bed and return again to the table. It is safe to approach SB818 at this time. SB818 should not be spoken to during this time. Crossed out. SB818 should not be approached at this time. See Report 7N and additional termination report of D1922. 530. SB818 will enter its dangerous phase. For the duration of this stage, it will exercise its abilities, changing colors, randomly generating objects, and running about the room. Dr. Blank seems to believe that this is some kind of tantrum that SB818 used to throw every day. Regardless, this is the one period of time that constant vigilant observation must be made. 538. SB818 seizes its tantrum and will lay on its bed, apparently crying again. 547. Yeah, I said that correctly. Not sure why I stopped. SB818 will get up from its bed and walk to the northernmost point of the room. It will then cross to the southernmost point of the bed and back again. From this point until it enters its passive state, SB818's behavior and are more erratic, with a few exceptions noted below. Agent Blank and Dr. Blank were unable to modify this section of SB818's behavior beyond a few points, including between 6 and 6:45, SB818 will scream and hit the surface of the table. Between 6:30 and 8, SB818 will manifest an object of some sort. Generally, this object appears to be misshapen, clump of dirt, wood, or metal. No analysis has been attempted due to SB818's unpredictable nature during this period. Between 7 and 8, SB818 will cease breathing and fall to the floor for approximately 7 minutes. Between 6 and 9:15, SB818 will manifest a number of small objects and proceed to arrange them in size from large to smallest. Occasionally, SB818's innate abilities will manifest, causing the objects to shift in size, leading to extreme agitation and anger as they no longer follow the pattern. If the object will fail to stabilize, execute protocol Blank and immediately notify Dr. Blank. 9:21, SB818 will return to its bed, laying down, closing its eyes, and entering a passive state. This whole thing was wild to read. I have no idea what this thing is or why it does the thing, but now we will find out. SB818 is a young male appearing to be approximately 7 to 12 years of age. Oh, it's a small child. Okay. Well, I may look like a small child. I'd be older though. Additionally, SB818 displays all the signs of behavior consistent with low-functioning non-verbal autism. The examination of an on-site behaviorist and recovered medical records show that this condition has been present for SB818's entire life. SB818's physical features have a tendency to shift when active. However, during a resting state, it has been noted as having black hair and dark skin. SB818 cannot speak and possesses no known direct ability to communicate. SB818 has shown no need for nutrition or waste removal, but has been recorded breathing and presumably sleeping. SB818 does not appear to age and has been known to shift between heights ranging from 1.17 to 1.85 meters and weights 65 to 80 kilograms, making any determination impossible. This, coupled with the incomplete state of the recovered medical records, leaves much of SB-818's history blank. SB-818 is potentially capable of changing the universe on a fundamental level, but its abilities are severely hampered by its impairment. The changes it makes are presumably an attempt to make the world conform to how it perceives things. Pigmentation in all objects has a tendency to shift and flow. Utensils and tools take on strange shapes, and sounds will emanate from no discernible source. These effects have demonstrated a range of approximately 10 meters. SB-818 has shown the ability to spontaneously generate matter. Nebulous objects have been noted to appear, particularly after session in which SB-818 has been doing a creative activity such as coloring or finger painting. See experiment log 1. Most of these objects remain for less than a few minutes before vanishing again, though some have been recorded as staying for several hours. Because of this, SB-818 holding cell has been gradually stripped of all materials that may be used for these purposes. None of the created objects have moved further than SB-818's line of sight, leading to Dr. Blank's hypothesis that SB-818 is literally creating phosphines, possibly caused by the contrast of the colors from the arts and crafts in the white walls of its cell. Further testing is required to determine if this is true. SB-818 was recovered from what was believed to have been its grandparents' home in rural blank, where it has apparently been left since the death in 19 blank from a presumably unrelated accident. One local banker and 2 real estate agents were assessing the property when they encountered SB-818. They failed to return, prompting local police to investigate. After Blank's subsequent disappearance, the Foundation was alerted and Special Task Force Blank was reported to investigate. Upon their arrival, data redacted. Subsequently, Dr. Blank suggests that data redacted, leading to SB-818's capture. Addendum T. During the last blank years, the containment procedure for SCPs with similar effects have drastically improved, due in part to the efforts of SB-818's containment staff. However, due to the increasingly erratic and dangerous lack of absolute adherence to the established control script and increasing presence of more dangerous and deadly effects, we have no other choice but to authorize the termination of SB-818. See addendum SB-818/OOT neutralization. Experiment log 1. Oh, so this little kid died, huh? Fucking harsh. Brutal. Test subject entering SB-818's radius of effects during active hours reported highly distorted vision, auditory and sensory hallucinations, inability to control their motion, and a tendency to repeat actions. After removal of subject, these effects seem to have lessened, but repeated exposure seem to extend the duration. Excuse me. Presumably, continual exposure would result in the permanence of these symptoms. The nature and severity of symptoms seem to relate directly to what part of SB-818's descriptive program was being enacted. For the purpose of this testing, subjects were chosen for resemblance to the people and photographs recovered from SB-818's home in 19 blank. A slight family resemblance with the passive face appearance of SB-818 was interfered with from the photographs, and 3 class personnel, D1922, D921, and D837 were selected. On blank 17-19 blank, testing was scheduled to determine how SB-818 would react to certain events, specifically those who have shown flexibility in the past being manipulated. After the failure of D1922 and D921 to elicit positive reactions, D837 entered the enclosure. The highlights of this testing are listed below. Date: blank 18-19 blank. Coloring: D837 entered SB-818's enclosure at blank blank PM. Previous information discovered during recovery suggests that this was specific time when SB-818 will be at a low point for negative activity. D837 entered and placed 3 crayons on the table, 1 red, 1 blue, 1 yellow. This was followed by a piece of plain white paper. SB-818 examined each crayon before changing the yellow one to green and proceeding to color. After exactly blank minutes, SB-818 ceased coloring and proceeded to the wall of the enclosure, beginning to follow it. D837 exited the enclosure before symptoms could worsen. Details: D837 complained for several days of visual hallucinations, all of which were the color green. No other symptoms were noted. As D837 termination and temporarily delayed due to SB-818's seeming acquiescence to her presence. Testing with D837 will continue. Oh, she's like, ah, fuck. I need to do more of this. She's like, kill me now. I'd rather die. Date 2/19 blank. Finger painting. D837 entered SB818's enclosure at the same time as the previous test, only having replaced the previous crayons with finger paints of the same color. SB818 was initially hesitant, but eventually changed the color of the yellow paint to green, as in the previous tests. SB818 proceeded to paint for several minutes until at blank blank PM it ceased and proceeded to the wall of the enclosure, beginning to follow it as usual. D837 exited the enclosure. D837 has been experiencing an increase in the symptoms of SCP-818's exposure after a small change in Totei's schedule. D837's vision is entirely tinted green. Ah, shit, dude. She's like, I don't even like green. Red's my favorite color. Why do you have to do this to me? On September 17, 2000 blank, D837 was killed during a breach of SCP blank. Next day, when D837 did not appear in its containment unit, SB818 became extremely agitated, resulting in data redacted, causing the death of 2 research subjects currently contained in its effect radius. Replacement for D837 may be necessary. But will they ever find somebody just like her? September 20th, 2000 blank, finger painting. D18274 entered SB818's enclosure at the same time as all the previous tests with both the crayons and the finger paints. D18274 was chosen for a resemblance to D837. For the first time, SCP-818 chose multiple colors, mixing them together on the paper. Additionally, SCP-818 breached its script more severely than any other time, calling for an additional blank minutes. Upon D18274's emergence from SCP-818's enclosure, D18274 began demonstrating many of the previous habits observed in D837, including data redacted and a tendency to whistle show tunes. After 2 additional exposures, each mirroring the first, D18274 is essentially the same person as D837. Oh. Blood test confirmed apparent genetic match. Oh, the SCP transformed this human being to another human being. D18274 is reclassified as D837. D837 delay for termination is refiled. Addendum OOT neutralization. On January 17, 2000 blank, Dr. Blank entered SCP-818's containment chamber during its passive phase and administered an injection of blank and blank, resulting in SCP-818 first completely ceasing breathing and then ceasing all other recovered body functions. Autopsy reports show that the subject died of anaphylactic shock. Remains are remanded at the site, blank, and are available for study. Now, I wonder, an abandoned project. Okay. I wonder if that was on purpose, like if they wanted this SCP to die, or if they just did that and it just happens that the SCP would die. Okay, I'm gonna see if I can order food real quick because I can feel the hunger. I hope it works. I know it's very late, but I hope I can. You know. Yeah, I already have enough drinks here. Please. I'm gonna give the guy a big tip if he actually delivers it. Yeah, if he delivers it, fucking big tip, dude. The fact that he has to bring me the food this late, I'm deserves it. Okay, Vital Suckers. Last one, save. SCP-819 is currently housed in a secured locker inside 19. Permission from Dr. Ryan is required to access items -A through F. SCP-819 was discovered in a pediatric office in blank blank after several reports of children being rushed back with symptoms including vision loss, severe nasal pain, and idiopathic unconsciousness. Agents dispatched found that the lollipops offered to the children were causing different bodily fluids to disappear. Liam and I actually had an idea similar to this with Skittles, but now we have one with lollipops. Okay, well, not that the body fluid, but like each Skittle color had a different effect. The candy in question was confiscated, and the office staff affected patients, and the guardians were treated and administered Class A amnestics. SCP-819 refers to the contents of a large box of seemingly normal lollipops produced by redacted. By Chupa Chups, maybe? Those were my favorite as a child. It appears only the one package recovered is exhibiting these anomalies. SCP-819 consists of 6 flavors of lollipops individually wrapped and 1 looped safety sticks classified as A to F. Current total of items A through F is blank, with blank having been used for testing. Physically and chemically, these items appear normal and can be destroyed and consumed like any other lollipop. Fragments of these lollipops retain the effects. The flavors are mundane as lollipops go, reportedly tasting the same as unaffected lollipops of the same brand. Experimental testing found that each flavor has affects a different bodily fluid. So here we have red, cherry, blood, of course, makes sense. Orange, flavored orange, gastric acid. Yellow, lemon, urine, yeah, makes sense. Green, lime, phlegm. Blue, blue raspberry, aqueous and vitreous humus, and purple grape cerebrospinal fluid. The affected fluid is only drained while the lollipop is actively consumed, and levels return to normal per typical generated by the body, assuming the mechanism for generation was not damaged during the loss of fluid. There is no compulsion to eat the lollipops, no compulsion to stop once all fluid is drained, assuming the body can survive without. But of course, as children, you just kind of want to have the whole thing, right? There's no reason for you to stop until you feel pain, and you're like, okay. But even as a child, just because you feel pain doesn't mean you're gonna stop licking that lollipop. You just be like, oh, that's odd. I feel like I'm dying, but lollipop. During testing, the only colors that produced fatalities directly from consumption were red and purple. Yeah, makes sense. It appears that the rate of loss is consistent volume and not based on the total volume present in the body, as evidenced by the difference in times between fatalities in SCP-A and -F. Where the fluids are displayed is yet unknown. Further testing will be performed as method to trace this phenomenon develop. Blanked out, crossed out. Okay. Wait, that's one too many. No, it's actually correct. Cross research with SCP-466 indicates that the fluids may be transferred into the random people in the various areas. 466 was mobile veins. Is an anime combination of the cardiovascular system, yeah, of 4 different people. Yeah. I remember this one. See up experiment log 819-466 for additional details. Research and requests unrelated to finding the means or systems through which the fluids are transferred are on indefinite hold. Recommending reassignment to Euclid pending these findings. 058, reclassification denied. Item and its effects are still under control with containment. Further research may include monitoring hospitals and medical records for people showing the following symptoms after consumption of the noted lollipop. Red, extremely high blood pressure, arterial swelling or bursting, increased blood volume. Orange, severe acid reflux, idiopathic vomiting or of acid. Yellow, distended or exploded bladder, inability to drain bladder, abnormal amount of urine discharge. Green, severe nasal discharge, vomiting, phlegm, difficulty breathing from phlegm accumulation. Blue, swelling or bursting of eyeball and lens. Eyeball becoming dislodged from the socket. Purple, cerebral edema and double vision and or headaches and or slurred speech and or perception issues. Experiment logs. Experimentation was performed on D-class personnel to determine the effects of the different colors of lollipops on body fluids and progression of symptoms as they were consumed. The subjects were connected to various monitoring tools such as pulse oximeters, pneumographs, and ECG to monitor vitals during the course of experimentation. All colors test taste comparison D6338. Subject was given 2 of each lollipop, one of which was a sample from SB819. Yeah, I say it correctly. And the other, an ordinary lollipop of the same brand. Subject was required to briefly taste each lollipop and comment on any of the difference in flavor. Results: subject did not report any difference in flavors between the lollipops, suggesting that marking the handles on these lollipops to ensure that they are not accidental mix-ups. Okay, yeah, makes sense, because like you might give them like you might give somebody a normal lollipop and then the SCP lollipop is in someone's pocket and they just take it out and okay, that was experiment 1. Here we have experiment 1 with A, with the red one. An effects of consumption D3, 6, 3, and 4. Let me see when it will arrive. Okay, I have time. Subject began consuming the lollipop. Oh, battery low on my Mac. Need that to see if anybody will ever say something in the Twitch chat. By the way, Meta, if you're here, probably gonna be done in like 10 minutes or less. So if you want to chat some more afterwards, I'm down. If not, that's fine. Subject began consuming the lollipop, showing no adverse symptoms besides development of mild tachycardia in the first few minutes. After approximately 5 minutes, subject began to appear pale with moderate tachycardia and reduction in difference between diastolic and systolic blood pressure. Subject became slightly disoriented but was ordered to continue. Over several minutes, the subject blood pressure began to drop, resulting in an increased heartbeat as the body attempted to catch up. At 10 minutes, subject began exhibiting signs of hypovolemic shock and began to become less lucid as blood pressure dropped further. Subject lost consciousness less than 3 minutes later. The sample of A was recovered, 2/3 were consumed. Subject expired 1 minute after loss of consciousness. Autopsy showed cause of death was lack of blood. It was estimated that the subject had lost over half of its blood supply during the course of this experiment. Orange. D9078. Subject reluctantly began eating the lollipop, commenting how he blank hated the taste of orange. Subject exhibited no symptoms for the first several minutes. After 5 minutes, subject complained of heartburn. Vitals remained stable. After 30 minutes, there was no further changes in subject symptoms besides a slight increase in pain. Subject was released after the lollipop was fully consumed and monitored for the next 36 hours. Subject exhibited significant stomach pains after eating and developed diarrhea and slight malnutrition, congruent with symptoms of achlorhydria. Subject recovered after several days from natural regeneration of gastric acid. Subject also developed several peptic ulcers from the lack of phlegm protecting the stomach lining during the experiment. Log Z, D9948. Subject proceeded to consume the lollipop. After 15 minutes, no changes were seen in the subject's vitals, nor any abnormal sensation were reported by the subject. When pressed, the subject remarked that he felt less of an urge to urinate than at the beginning of the procedure. Test was put on hold while subject was instructed to consume 1 liter of water and wait until the urge to urinate was intense. Subject was again ordered to consume -C. After 2 minutes, subject reported the urge to urinate had decreased. After 10 minutes, subject had no urge to urinate, and when ordered to attempt, no urine remained in subject's bladder. While this may have been some practical usage for field agents or sensitive operation, I would appreciate if the staff would stop requesting -C1 for recreational uses. Dr. Drain. Green. Log D1151. After about 3 minutes, the subject noted that it felt like his sinuses were beginning to clear and happily continue. Within another 3 minutes, subject reported his nose felt very dry and a little painful. Further consumption caused sinuses and nasal pain increases, as well as the development of his throat becoming sore and breathing becoming slightly difficult. Continued progress resulted in painful swallowing, more labored breathing, and strong pain in all previously affected areas. After the end of consumption, subject was released and monitored for 5 days. Initial examination showed inflamed nasal, sinus, and esophageal tissue. Similar irritation on the lungs were confirmed when the subject's respiration was examined. Subject quickly developed rhinorrhea and succumbed to several strains of stomach and rhinoviruses. After recovering from the illness, subject was back to normal, though it is theorized that some of the production glands were damaged from the prolonged lack of phlegm. Blue. Log E. Subject D8381. Within 15 seconds, subject reported difficulty seeing. At 1 minute, subject lost all vision. Upon physical examination, it was shown that the aqueous humor was depleted, and that the mass of the eye was beginning to shrink. Further consumption caused the subject's eyes to shrink and then shrivel as vitreous humor was lost. After 4 minutes, eyes were fully devoid of humor and were shriveled. Patient was able to feel the eyes shrinking but did not experience any pain until the eyes were reduced to the point that it was straining connection to the optical nerve. Eyes did not rehydrate after the end of the experiment due to the vitreous humor being a non-replenished fluid. Subject was terminated after this experiment. Ugh. Ow, 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 ow. Purple. Log F. D2941. Within 20 seconds beginning to eat the lollipop, subject complained of a sudden severe headache and weakness. Reclining appeared to lessen the pain, indicating an orthostatic headache. Subject was ordered to sit up and continue. Subject also complained of dizziness, vertigo, and double vision. Within 3 minutes of starting the experiment, subject became unconscious. Subject pronounced dead 30 seconds after loss of consciousness. The sample of -F was only slightly consumed. Autopsy showed a severe lack of cerebrospinal fluid, causing the brain to lose buoyancy and constrict blood vessels, providing blood of the brain. And that's the end of the 810s. Woo! Okay, and here is my list. Glass shots is it's just, come on. It reminds me of the Sam Raimi Spider-Man, where it's just like the glass shots are like flying towards the Doc Ock's wife, but in this case it's like very tiny and it just connect to your brain, and you just end up just going, you're just staring somewhere randomly. Like it must be like we all did that. We all daydreamed and just stared while we were daydreaming, because that's all you do. Like your brain just thinks of this scenario and you just deeply into it, and your eyes just look somewhere. But imagine like you do that, and when you walk to someone and you go like this, they don't go like, huh, excuse me, what? They just keep on like doing that, you know what I mean? Like it's like that, like the typical like cartoon daydream or lost in thought, where you just go like, hey, and they just don't respond. So I think that's like very, very it's very cool. Just the imagery alone is pretty cool, because it's like a small little line of glass. Vital suckers, I mean, to be honest, that's just fun. I had a lot of fun reading that, because like it's just a fun concept that each color has a different effect on your body. But it's also brutal. Imagine like you love cherry taste and you're like, oh my god, I need a cherry lollipop, but you lose all your blood when you suck it. You're like, oh. Swamp Woman. The concept of Swamp Woman is like very, very dope. It's definitely, as I said, it reminds me of the Hag, but it's definitely not supposed to be like the Hag. The imagery is very different, and it looks like it was an experiment. Like she was a normal woman, then got fucking, and that's how she became the Hag, and then decided to eat the person that experimented on her. I think we had like another SCP before that. But that was like a normal human being that was experimented on and then killed the guy that caused the experiment. Random metamorphism. I just feel bad for that one. Like I feel it's clearly suffering. It doesn't want to go through all this, and every time it does, it just becomes super aggressive or suicidal, or like just self-harming, or like it's a mixture of either self-harming or harm everybody else. You know, like it's just because it's suffering. It's in pain. An abandoned project. I do wonder why this kid had such a specific schedule, but at the end, yeah, I am curious if and I do hope that whoever made this SCP contacts me like the other SCP readings I did. I do hope that whoever wrote this answers me the question if that doctor did it on purpose to kill the SCP off, or if that was just like pure accidental. I mean, it did say like they had terminations planned, but I do wonder like if that was like the part of the plan, or if that was just like a test and it's just backfired. I don't know. The Never One lamp, very simple concept. Just take the genie of the lamp with the 3 wishes, but flip it by whatever you wish you never wanted. So I just think that's really funny. Darwin's Erector set. It's eerie. It's very eerie because like even though there is the movie Robots that takes like the similar concept where like robots build their own babies and then the baby just growing up is basically just giving it better parts. But in this case, it's whatever other mechanical thing exists in our world, and they just make it, and it just becomes this sentient being. And after a while, they might like outgrow us because we have so much machinery around us: cars, trains, ovens, stove. I'm pretty sure even bikes would count in such a way. Clocks. And so on and so forth. You know, there was so much that they could just take apart and just rebuild. Snake Nut Cam. That's just, yeah. Again, I feel like taking something that we're used to and making it either dangerous or flip how it works is like such a simple but fun thing to do with things like that. That is clever. I like that. Just like it's like, oh, it's just a prank, and just. The whole entire face, like the chin, everything, the jaw, absolutely destroyed. Yeah, that would be a fun one to actually like film. A big box of river. I mean, the imagery is just awesome. You open up this container, just this flow of water, like non-stop, and it's just this giant container. Like honestly. But as I said, like, it's the third one that I read that was just endless water, and it's like not that far off from the water orb. So of course, for me, it's like nothing too surprising right now because like I just read about a giant ball of water that just spits out ocean water. You know, it's just like. So the fact that there's a container that just spits out river water. It's nothing too new, but I still like the imagery that it's like this giant container and just non-stop water comes out. And then pure tones. Yeah, I mean, the fact that it has, I mean, a lot of SCPs have like either positive or negative sides, but it's nice to have one in one of the 10s that you get to read. Like at least one SCP is like, oh, you know what, you can use this for good. Kind of like the duck pond, you know, like the duck pond. You can sit there and just be like at peace. You can enjoy the peace. You're in harmony. But if you stay too long, you get depressed. So it's like it has like positive and negative sides. So yeah, I think it was a good read, and I do like it, if my SCP readings are like around 2 hours, under 2 hours, because like it's just a nice read that way. It's a nice compact read. But for now, I would say we're about to reach the end. So I hope you all enjoyed to tonight's reading. Tomorrow, of course, we're gonna continue with SCP, the 820s. What's that? Is that my food? Oh, that's fast. Wait more, my wallet. Here we go. Wow. Got my food right as I was about to end. Very, very nicely timed. I timed this really good. And so, yeah, that's basically it. I hope you all have a good morning, afternoon, evening, and the Afro is with you. I'm going to enjoy my food now. Bye bye. Also, Meta, if you want to call, just call.